I never thought my own sister would kick me out of the house, but exactly 2 years later, she found herself surrounded by boxes on the street. And guess who she turned to for help? My name is Emily. Let's go back a bit in time. I used to live in a house with my parents and my younger sister, Carol. Our small suburban house was always filled with laughter and conversations, though not always pleasant ones. Our living room was a cozy space adorned with mismatched pillows, a worn-out rug, and walls decorated with photos, mostly of Carol, with her trophy on her first day of school or in her dance costume. Of course, there were a few pictures of me too, but most were hidden behind a vase or partially covered by Carol's bright, shiny photos. One afternoon, while I was rearranging the furniture in the living room, Mrs. Anderson, our neighbor and a longtime friend of Mom's, stopped by. A warm aroma of freshly baked cookies, her usual treat for visits, wafted through the air. She hugged Mom and said, "How are the girls?" Before Mom could answer, I stepped forward with a tray of lemonade. "Hello, Mrs. Anderson," I greeted. She looked surprised, as though noticing me for the first time. "Oh, Emily, you've grown so much." Mom added with a smile, "Wait until you see Carol. She's turned into a real young lady." Right on cue, Carol entered the room, her blonde hair bouncing with every step. "Aunt Jenny!" she exclaimed, hugging Mrs. Anderson tightly. The woman laughed and lightly pulled back. "Look at you! Margaret wasn't lying. You've bloomed beautifully." Carol beamed radiantly and twirled dramatically to show herself off. The conversation flowed easily. Carol talked about her school achievements and her dance performance. I tried to insert something about my school project, but Mom quickly interrupted, "That's great, dear," and swiftly shifted back to discussing Carol's accomplishments. A familiar heavy feeling settled in my chest, the longing to be noticed, acknowledged. As sunlight streamed into the room, casting shadows, I overheard Mom say quietly, "Emily was the trial run for Carol." Mrs. Anderson frowned. "Margaret, that's harsh. They're both your daughters." Carol looked at the adults with the same puzzled, bright gaze. "I just mean," Mom attempted to explain, "things were easier with Carol. She was planned." A lump formed in my throat as the realization hit. I was the unplanned child. Mrs. Anderson, sensing the tension, tried to lighten the mood. "Both of your daughters are special, Margaret. Don't forget that." Carol suddenly asked with innocent sincerity, "Mommy, does that mean you love me more than Emily?" Mom hesitated, then gently squeezed Carol's hand and replied, "You're both loved, just differently." Hearing those words, I retreated to my room. The weight of their implications sank deep, leaving scars that would last a lifetime. The mix of university lectures and 2 part-time jobs was far from the education I once imagined. Every morning began at dawn. I served coffee to cafe customers fueling up for the day. In the afternoons, it was school, group projects. By evening, I was surrounded by books, working night shifts at a bookstore. I often came home exhausted, only to find Carol lounging in the living room amidst her scattered art supplies. The dynamic in the family was always clear. Carol was the star, and I was the backdrop. One evening, during a rare family dinner, a rarity due to our conflicting schedules, I gathered the courage to discuss a decision I'd been considering for weeks. "Mom, Dad," I began, "I'm thinking about renting a place closer to the university." My eyes darted nervously between my parents and Carol. Silence followed. Then Dad chuckled. "With your salary as a barista and bookstore clerk?" Carol's quiet laugh echoed. "Planning to live in a cardboard box?" Ignoring her jab, I looked at Mom, hoping for support. "I've saved up some money, and with careful budgeting, I think I can manage," I said firmly. Mom set her fork down and looked at me skeptically. "Emily, you can barely cover your living costs here. Do you think landlords will be as lenient as we are?" "This isn't about ease," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "It's about learning to stand on my own 2 feet." Carol smirked challengingly. "Big words for someone who's always relied on us." Fed up, I shot back. "Maybe it's time you learned a thing or two about hard work and responsibility, Carol." Carol rolled her eyes, clearly unwilling to listen to my lecture. Mom intervened. "Girls, enough. Emily, we're just trying to protect you from unnecessary struggles." "Thank you, Mom," I replied softly. "But sometimes struggles are necessary for growth." The following days buzzed with whispers behind closed doors and Carol's periodic snide remarks, but my determination remained unshaken. A week later, I packed my things and moved into a modest, slightly worn studio apartment near the university. Independence was both terrifying and exhilarating. My family's house, with its comfort and familiarity, was merely a few blocks away, yet the emotional distance felt like miles. The decision changed not just my life, but our family dynamics forever. City lights twinkled through the curtains of my apartment, softly illuminating the dark room. I was engrossed in a challenging task when my phone suddenly rang. Carol's name lit up the screen, and I felt a pang of anxiety. Our last conversation months ago had left a bitter taste. Taking a deep breath, I answered. After a pause, uncharacteristic for my usually chatty sister, she coldly said, "Dad's gone." Her words caught me off guard. "What do you mean, gone?" I asked, struggling to process. She sighed heavily. "Heart attack. It happened suddenly. The doctors did all they could." I felt a crushing weight on my chest. "I can't believe it. What about Mom?" Her voice was detached, almost businesslike. "She's devastated. Not talking, not eating, just sitting in the living room staring at his favorite chair." I tried to picture the scene. Our childhood home, filled with sorrow. A space that had housed so many memories, joys, and heartaches, and now, this. "And you?" I asked, trying to gauge her emotion. "How are you coping?" A vulnerability flickered in her voice. "I'm managing, but this isn't about me." Before I could ask what she meant, Carol got to the point. "Listen, I have a packed schedule and my own life. I can't be there all the time. You need to come home and help, especially with Mom." Her expectation angered me. "She's our mom, Carol, not a duty you can offload because you're busy." Carol snapped bitterly. "You've always loved playing the responsible older sister, haven't you? Well, here's your chance. I stayed with them while you built your career. Now it's your turn." Every part of me wanted to call out her selfishness, but I held back. This wasn't the time for sibling conflict. "All right," I replied, trying to remain calm. "I'll come, but not because you demanded it. Mom needs support, and I'll be there." Her sarcastic tone returned. "Good. Glad you feel that way. Hurry up." The conversation ended, leaving me alone with the weight of loss and the tasks ahead, but I was determined to be there for Mom. Coming home felt like stepping into a foreign world. The once warm and lively house now seemed cold and empty. Despite preparing myself, I wasn't ready for such a stark transformation. Mom, the usually strong pillar of the family, looked frail and defeated. Her previously sparkling eyes had dimmed with grief. She barely acknowledged my arrival, consumed by her sorrow. Carol, however, was as talkative as ever. "Finally decided to bless us with your presence?" she said sarcastically when I entered the living room. Ignoring her jab, I approached Mom, gently touching her hand. "Mom, I'm here. We'll get through this together." She merely nodded, her gaze unfocused. In the evening, while I was preparing dinner, I overheard a muffled conversation between Mom and Carol in the next room. Words like selfish, irresponsible, and career reached my ears. Though I couldn't make out the entire dialogue, it was obvious that my absence over the years had been a frequent topic. Dinner was tense. Every bite and sip was laden with unspoken resentment. Summoning courage, I broke the silence. "Mom, I know I haven't been around much, but I'm here now and I promise to be by your side." Mom sighed deeply and replied, "Emily, it's not about right now. It's all those years when you chose work over us. I needed you then, but Carol was always there." Carol flashed a smug smile, adding, "Some people choose family, and others choose ambition." "Hurt," I said. "I worked hard to support myself, to not be a burden to you. Every time I offered to help, it was turned down. What more could you have wanted from me?" Carol scoffed dismissively. "Oh, stop playing the victim." The night ended in bitter emotions and harsh words. The divide between my new world and the home I'd left behind seemed insurmountable. Lying in my old bedroom that night, I felt the weight of their expectations and the sting of their accusations. Coming home proved harder than I'd ever imagined. I had always been the obedient daughter, the one who took responsibility when others stepped back. From the moment I returned to my parents' home, I took on the care of my ailing mom. It was a hard task, but the right one. No matter how much effort I put in, nothing ever felt right. Every morning I would prepare her favorite breakfast and try to start a conversation, but the only response was her murmured complaints about the eggs being too runny or the toast burnt. I'd bite my tongue and nod, promising to do better. One evening, while washing dishes, I overheard Mom talking on the phone with Carol. "She can't do anything right. I don't know why she even tries." Mom's voice was thick with irritation. Instead of defending me or staying silent, Carol poured fuel on the fire. "I told you she's always been like that. We should have just let me handle everything." It hurt. I was doing everything I could, sacrificing my personal space, time, and mental health, and yet they talked about me like I was a nuisance. Whispers and gossip had become a daily poison eating me up inside. One especially difficult day at work, my phone buzzed. Carol's name lit up the screen. I took a deep breath and answered, bracing myself for more criticism. Her voice was colder than ever. "You have to leave. Mom can't stand you here. You ruin everything." My heart clenched. For a moment, I felt knocked off balance, but then anger and defiance surged inside me. I was done being the scapegoat. "I'll leave," I said firmly, "but I'm taking my things." There was a pause, and I imagined the surprise turning to mockery on Carol's face. She probably expected me to plead, apologize, promise to be better. But those days were over. I was tired of being invisible, undervalued, the family's workhorse. The call ended, and I took a moment to absorb everything. It was time to reclaim my life and stop letting others define my worth. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, warming the living room. The TV screen, sofa, and dining table glowed softly. reminders of years of hard work and sacrifice. Today, those items symbolized my freedom. I methodically went through every room. In the kitchen, I unplugged the fridge and microwave, each item telling stories of months I skipped outings with friends to save money. There was the coffee machine, my small comfort. The house was filled with memories, some sweet, some bitter, but the bitterness was outweighing everything else. My bedroom was next. I remembered buying the bed, choosing the bedding, moving furniture until everything felt just right. I glanced at the vanity, a gift from my grandmother. It stayed. That wasn't about money, but principle. I packed the last box. The phone rang unexpectedly, breaking the silence. I knew who it was without looking. Lately, Carol's tone had been friendlier, but hostility still laced her voice. "You're a total thief," she hissed venomously. Calmly, I replied, "Carol, everything I'm taking was bought with my money. I thought you'd be happy I'm leaving with this." "You can't just take everything from our house," she said sharply. I sighed. Funny how these things suddenly became family heirlooms when I needed support or gratitude. They were just things. Now that I'm taking them, they're precious relics. I saw Carol's face flush with rage. "You're ruining everything because of your stupid pride." I laughed, bitter and ironic. Pride? Carol, if this was about pride, I'd have left a long time ago. This is about respect, value, and protecting myself. She snorted. "Always the victim, huh? Return everything, and maybe we'll talk." Let me explain. I have receipts for all these things, proof they're mine. Every cent came from my wallet. Maybe you should have thought about that before rejecting me. My voice was firm but carried pain and anger beneath. A heavy silence fell between us, filled with unspoken words and emotions. Finally, Carol hissed, "You always have to have the last word, don't you?" "It's not about the last word," I answered, feeling the weight of years of suppressed feelings. "It's about finally speaking up." And with that, I hung up, ending any further arguments. The boxes were loaded, the past left behind, and ahead, an uncertain but hopeful future. Months had passed since I cut ties with my family, and in that time, I had blossomed. My confidence grew every day as I built a life on my own terms, controlling every aspect. The phone stayed silent, family numbers blocked, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The next time I saw my family was at Mom's funeral. Dressed in black, I stood apart, an outsider watching my family's drama unfold. The air was thick with tension and unspoken words. Everyone moved slowly, faces blurred, voices mere background noise. The reading of the will took place in the family lawyer's office. Though I wasn't interested in the inheritance, local gossip ensured I was well informed. Carol, as expected, was the sole heir, but none of us anticipated the mountain of debts our parents left behind. The house, filled with bittersweet memories, was quickly sold, but even the proceeds couldn't cover the massive liabilities. I watched Carol's expression shift from smug confidence to horror as the lawyer announced each debt, the mortgage, unpaid bills. I heard snippets of hushed relatives' conversations. Bankruptcy. How could this happen? Poor Carol. Voices tinged with pity and shame. Though I felt some sorrow for the old house, I couldn't hide a dark satisfaction watching Carol face this harsh lesson. For years, she enjoyed the security and comfort our parents provided her while belittling all my efforts to be independent. Now everything had changed. and life delivered its own retribution. I left the funeral and will reading without looking back. Gossip didn't matter, nor did Carol's new troubles. I built my life, brick by brick, on my own terms, and nothing would shake this foundation. 2 years had passed since I separated from my family. The small apartment I first lived in had become cramped, and my professional life was thriving. Every day I saw luxurious homes in magazines or on my commute, and couldn't help but imagine my own. As my income grew, that dream became more attainable. One evening, after a tough day, I mindlessly scrolled through social media and saw a familiar name in my feed. There was Carol, surrounded by boxes and looking anxious in front of our old family home. The caption read, "New Beginnings." A few mutual friends offered words of sympathy. It became clear she was drowning in debt and forced to put the house up for sale. I was in the middle of a conversation with a realtor about a cute suburban house when my phone rang. Carol's name appeared on the screen. Taking a deep breath, I answered. "Hi," she said with forced cheerfulness. "And what do I owe this pleasure?" I asked cautiously. "I need help," she began. A pause. "I need money." I raised an eyebrow. "We haven't spoken for years, and the first thing you ask for is money?" "We're sisters," she snapped, clearly annoyed. "That didn't matter. You kicked me out, remember?" I replied coldly. "I wouldn't ask if I had another choice," she shot back. "The house has to sell, but no buyers. I'm in debt." A silence hung between us. My thoughts raced. "I won't give you money," I finally said firmly, "but I can make a deal." Carol exhaled softly. "I'll buy the house, not at market value, but for the minimum amount of the debt. Take it or leave it." She answered quietly and submissively, "Okay." The following weeks were filled with paperwork, bank visits, and meetings. The day I got the keys to our childhood home was bittersweet. There was no triumphant return or celebration, just quiet acceptance of everything that happened. The house, once a symbol of broken relationships and painful memories, was now a testament to my resilience and determination. As I began settling in, I replaced memories with plans for the future. There were no calls or messages from Carol. Our paths had diverged, and perhaps that was for the best. In my ancestral home, now mine, I created a sanctuary. Echoes of laughter and love filled the halls, drowning out the whispers of the past. I moved forward, on my own path, on my own terms. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.